So, have you ever tried doing affirmations and instead of feeling better and more motivated by it, you just felt worse? But perhaps other times it actually worked out and it felt really good. So, what's going on here? Why does sometimes it seems to work and other times it doesn't seem to work? In fact, it seems to do the opposite of what you want it to do. And from my experience, it's usually because there's a disconnect between your conscious brain and your subconscious brain. Either this part is not convinced or bought in yet, or this part is not fully convinced or bought in yet. And if you're like, what? I will explain. And first of all, just a disclaimer, I'm not the end-all be-all expert on any of this stuff. This is just my way of structuring what I know from personal experience, experiencing coaching people, books I've read. So take what resonates with you and leave the rest. So at a pretty high level, we have a conscious brain, right? The conscious side of ourselves that it's logical. Things make sense to it. It's also resource intensive, right? And it takes a lot of focus. But it's not actually very powerful when it comes to motivating you to do stuff. And then there's the subconscious part. And I do these hand motions specifically because it's like the conscious part is more kind of in your face and the subconscious part is kind of operating in the background a little bit. You're not really aware of it. It's that more emotional, instinctual side of you. It works really fast. It makes snap decisions, and it's very, very powerful when it comes to persuading you to do stuff or not to do stuff. It's like orders of magnitude more powerful than your conscious side. There are several analogies out there on how to kind of explain the dichotomy between the two, right? If you've read the book Nudge, you've probably heard of the rider and the elephant. So imagine there's a rider on this big elephant, and the rider is a human, and that's your conscious side. And then the elephant is the subconscious side. Now the rider can kind of try to like make decisions and nudge the elephant to go where it would like the elephant to go, but the elephant is a freaking elephant. It's huge. It's so much more powerful. And if the elephant doesn't want to go down the path and wants to go and eat grass or leaves or whatever elephants eat, I don't know what elephants eat, it'll do whatever it pleases, right? It'll do that if it really, really wants to. And the rider has no strength whatsoever to move that elevator back on track. Did I just say elevator? Other analogies is the parent and the child, or an owner and 100 cats. You see where I'm getting at here. Basically, the point of all these analogies is to just show the difference between like your thinking brain and then the part that's like way more powerful when it comes to getting you to do stuff, but is like less driven by logic. It's driven more by emotions. And where does that emotional reaction to certain triggers come from? It comes from repeated habitual instances of our past, experiences from our past, in which we habitually respond to and got certain feedback from. And that has trained us to kind of react in emotional ways to the same types of triggers. So how does this relate to affirmations? You have to get both the conscious and subconscious part of your brain to buy in for it to work. How to get the conscious side to buy in? You make it believable by actually just using logic. It may take some work, but really you only need to do that work once. And I'll show you an example of what I mean by that later. Now, how to get the subconscious to buy in? To get the subconscious to buy in requires two things: repetition and an emotional charge. What I mean by emotional charge is there is a feeling of want, of desire, of inspiration, motivation, like that, something that feels attractive. Why the emotional charge? Because your subconscious is actually afraid of unfamiliarity. It likes what it's familiar with. It's comfortable with it. So if you want to make any change, you want to make the unfamiliar feel good. And repetition is literally just repeating things again and again and again like a crazy person. That's how you, over time, rewire this part. Now, where most people make the mistake is either one, skipping the logical convincing side, like, they just pick an affirmation that they just pick something that they want and then they just repeat it, but they haven't actually bought in that they believe in it, right? If you don't believe in it, no amount of saying it will make it true, right? So if I want to make $1 million, I can say I'm a millionaire until I'm blue in the face. But if I'm not actually a millionaire right now, it's very hard for me to convince myself that, yeah, this is true when I can see the numbers. And I'm like, but literally it is not. And the second mistake is skipping the emotional charge of it. let's go back to the money example. I can say I'm a millionaire because more is better, right? But if I don't actually care that much, like if I'm just enjoying my life right now and I am not a millionaire, then repeating that over again isn't gonna do anything for me. Another example, weight loss. I see this a lot with my clients where they will set a goal to, get to a certain body fat percentage or a certain weight, and when we dig deeper, the reason behind that is just because they think that that's the way I should be. And should is not the emotional charge that we're looking for, because when should is the energy that's tied to what it is that you want, that's exactly what ends up making the thing feel like frustrating and almost discouraging, because it's actually quite a negative emotion. It feels like pressure, like obligation, like not something I really want, and you can't fool your brain. Does that make sense? So what does this look like and how to do it? First, the logical convincing. Okay, always convince your conscious brain first. So one question you can ask yourself is, can this be true? So a personal example of mine is that I want work to feel like play. My dream job is one where I show up to play with my friends and I'm making lots of money. And so I have to ask myself, can this be actually true? Like, can I actually believe it? And if the answer is no, then the second follow-up question is, why do I think that this can't be true? And it's usually some kind of belief that will start to show up. So for instance, maybe I would initially say, I don't feel like this can be true because I have this deep-seated belief in me already that you can't provide value without working hard, right? Like that was actually a belief I had. So then the question after that is this belief ultimately true? At this point, most people will say something like, no, it's not ultimately true. But if there's still resistance and you're still thinking, I think it's probably true, then I want to ask the next follow-up question, which is, what would need to happen to make that not true? If anything, right? And what this question does is it makes you get creative and really open your mind. All beliefs are really limiting if you think about it, right? So what are the limiting parts of this belief that's preventing you from thinking this thing can be possible or achievable? Now, of course, there are actual things that are unrealistic to achieve, like grow a foot in a month. But I'm going to assume that that's not the kind of thing we're talking about here. And if that is something you want, I can't help you there. Going back to my example, is it absolutely true that you can't provide value while having fun? And of course the answer is no. Then I can link providing value to making money, because I can see how when I have more fun, and there's, as you can see, there's like more dot connecting happening here. So when I'm actually journaling, it's actually a lot of writing. But what it ends up being is when I have more fun, I'm less tunnel vision, I'm less stressed out, I show up better, people like to work with me better. Therefore, I provide more value, I get more stuff done, people enjoy working with me. Therefore, my work is better, I get to make more money, and like there's and then now because I connected A to B to C to D, now when I shorten it again and read A to D, like the more fun I have, the more money I make. Now it reads well, it makes sense, and now because I've done that first work to convince my conscious brain, I can read it now without feeling like I'm lying to myself. And when you get something that you feel like you're pretty bought into, try it on for size. Like it's almost like trying on clothes, right? Like try on this belief, and what happens? Is there a lot of chatter up here? Is there a lot of chatter that's like, no, I still don't believe it, or well, how are you going to do that, or more arguments kind of happening here? Then that probably means there needs to be a little bit more dot connecting happen first. You'll know that you've gotten to the point where you have convinced this part of you when the chatter up here kind of stops. When you try on this belief for size, it's like quiet. And that's the point where you are no longer lying to yourself when you say that you get to have this thing, because you think that this side of you is bought in that it is possible. It is now believable. And when this part kind of shuts up a little bit, then you can start going after this part, which is your subconscious. Now this part takes more time, but it actually is more fun, because this is the part where you take the thing that you now are bought in can be achievable, and then you try to figure out what are the different variations of saying the things that like spark joy, that motivate me, that make me excited. I can say things like, I'm working at my dream job, or I have fun all the time, or I make a lot of money. But those don't really excite me. They're just kind of words I'm saying that's coming out of my mouth. It may excite somebody else, but it doesn't really excite me. I need to ask myself, what is the exciting part about getting that, right? There must be something exciting about it, or else why do I want it? And then what's the best way of saying that to automatically kind of trigger that feeling of excitement in me again? So I wrote down a few iterations of this, this feeling that I want, right? You're really just trying to get yourself into a feeling. And some of the things I came up with, the more fun I have, the more money I make, the more fun I have, the more I get done. Fun gets to find me at work, and it gets to be fun. And I love using the words, it gets to be whatever, because it implies that you don't need to have it right now, but you deserve it. You can get it, right? You do deserve to have it, right? And so for me, I like to use that one a lot of times when I'm feeling kind of just tired and want to make it feel easy for myself. And the thing is, when you come up with different variations of this, and I usually come up with maybe 4 or 5 variations, but it's really just context dependent. Certain times, and I don't know why, but sometimes you can say one thing and it'll feel great one moment, but then you can use it again later and it's not feeling as exciting. And then when I have options, I can go and look through my options and be like, I like number 3 better. This one feels more fun to me. I'm going to be reciting this one. So what influences the kind of wording that I choose in the moment? It's strictly just, is it bringing me closer or further away from the ideal feeling that I want? In this example, the feeling is fun. So when I'm reading this stuff, maybe I'll read 4 of them, and number 3 is the one where I feel the most fun. Like it's actually triggering a sense of yes, I can feel the fun in this. That's the one I use at that particular moment. Your conscious brain is already bought in. The getting your conscious brain to buy in is really a one-time work. Getting your subconscious brain to buy in is where the repetition comes in. Repeat it to yourself like a crazy person. In fact, I even have a variation of this on my phone. And if I really want to instill a belief, I actually just leave post-it notes everywhere. I literally do that depending on how strong I want this belief is and that I want to overturn. So to reiterate, number 1, make a logical argument to your conscious brain for why this can be true, why it's possible, why you can believe it. And the second part, convince your subconscious brain. And to do that requires lots of repetition and emotional charge. So figure out what are the a couple of phrases that you can use, or vision board or whatever, right? If you're more of a visual person, I know that can work too. And feel free to create different variations of it so that on certain days when this doesn't work out, read the other thing instead, right? So comment below with any affirmations that you're trying to make stick, or whatever is on your mind after watching this video. Did it help? Did this make sense? Want to hear more about this kind of thing? Let me know. And if you enjoy this, please subscribe for more content, and make sure to check the description box for any important links that I may happen to drop in there. Until next time.